everybody. Thanks for coming. Like I said, we have a very interesting room to be in. So it's an inspiring room because we have art around us, which is really neat that physicians have created. It looks like, silk scarves and all kind of things. So after this, take a peek. It's good brain stuff to just kind of think outside the box a little bit. We're going to talk about that a little bit, cognitive fitness too, in this peak performance workshop. So I'm Dr. Mary Rensel. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I have Dr. Feldman here, and we're going to present together this Unlocking Your Peak Performance. And a little parentheses we thought we'd add is like with love. We're not here to be like, well, let's just go and do peak performance and not acknowledge what we need for our own human beings, but also with love and care. So we're going to focus on interpersonal skills, the neuroscience of joy and performance, and also hidden talents, like we've talked about in the room with art and other hidden talents, and how to develop them. Let's go, maybe we're moving. What happened? Where do I put this? Here we go, maybe the mouse will use. Okay. So our objectives is we're going to talk a bit about work-life balance, that elusive thing, how to find our brain nourishing strategies, and also, neuroscience-based priorities, talk about our own personal journeys to some sense. So I'm going to start, and my part of this workshop is called Unlocking Peak Performance with Neuroscience. So in my humble opinion, I don't think we learn enough about neuroscience and professional growth and professional development. I'm super biased with neuroscience, though, so that I'll just admit my bias right from the beginning. Oops. Oh my goodness. I am having trouble. Let me just let it go. Okay. So let's start with this quote from the illustrative Maya Angelou. And just look at that beautiful baby and just, think of those days where you're just comfortable and warm and supported. And the quote goes, "A person is the product of their dreams. So make sure to dream great dreams and then to try to live your dreams." So this beautiful time when we're away from our usual day-to-day, we have some time to kind of think about what is important to us, what do we want in our lives, but our days are more like this, right? We're like always running and catching up to someone and have a goal, and the goal's a little bit elusive over the wall here in these slides. So is it even possible to have well-being in healthcare? I'm going to fall back on a comprehensive definition of well-being from the World Health Organization. So we're going to use that as our pillar when we refer to well-being. And the World Health Organization has said that a society, when it's well, has three components. Number one, it has resiliency. Number two, it has built capacity for action rather than reaction to things, actually planning and action. And then being prepared to transcend the challenges that we know and the challenges that are unknowable that are coming. And then we have some manuscripts that have drawn what our brain quite looks like on our busy days, our stressful days. That's the red, gray, stressed brain, because we see it's lit up. Those of you who don't love neuroscience like me, that's the hypothalamus that's red, that's the amygdala that's red, that's your brainstem that's red. Meaning those are driving our behaviors and our reactions to life. Rather, we want that green, beautiful, lovely brain where our prefrontal cortex is directing our executive function, is really, determining our next steps, not necessarily our stress. But again, we all have these busy days. So how do we focus on these three pillars? Let's start with resiliency. When we talk about the actual neurophysiology of resiliency, what happens is once we have the ability to feel control over one of our stressors, the next one will be a little bit easier because this is this long-term potentiation that we call learning. And once we have this experience that we do have control over some of our stressors, if we can find that stressor we do have control over, the next one that comes to us is a little bit easier. And that is the neurophysiologic definition of resiliency. That we try and we find points of control of our lives, and the next one is just a bit easier because we have that skill. This is our skill building, like we were referring to with the art, building skills. It's practicing. And then we have neuroscience experts like the neuroscientist that wrote this book. Her name is Lisa Feldman Barrett. She reminds us that our brain is like a busy parent. It's already doing so many things, right? It's running like right now. What is it doing that we don't have to think about? It's like when your child asks you, can you drive me to the mall? Can you buy a present for my friend I forgot? I have this project due. No, I don't have any time for that. And the brain may give you that same message. No, I don't have any time for extra learning. I don't have any time for extra things. I'm already busy. I'm managing your whole body, So the brain is like, we hear a lot about psychological safety, but the brain is saying like, I'm managing all your parts, all your things. I can't do anything extra. And the brain also, she reminds us, Dr. Feldman-Barrett also reminds us that our brain likes to see patterns. And whenever anything new comes up in front of us, we hold up patterns that we know. And that's that pattern matching. And we like patterns. We like the comfort of familiar. So whenever we're learning and we're putting ourselves into new areas, we're learning new things, our mind is opening to new ideas, like the speakers we've heard over this, this weekend, they're opening our minds to new ideas. Our brain is like, I don't know, I haven't seen that before. Like I have never talked and turned to someone and say, you belong. But Julie Silver yesterday told us we should do that. So why don't we just do that right now? Because Julie Silver said, and whatever Julie Silver says, we need to do because she's brilliant. So turn to your neighbor, and I'll say it to Kim, you belong. So go ahead and just, you belong here. And she reminded us, very good. She reminded us yesterday, like, do you use that word? Do you use those words? Like I've worked in medicine for 30 years, 30 plus years. No one said you belong. I've never had anyone say you belong until yesterday. Someone told me I belong. And the brains are like puppies or little babies. They need care as well. So when we're asking them, I want you to learn something new, I want you to go to a new area, I want you to build a skill, but I'm not going to give you any glucose or rest or comfort or support. So would you do that to your puppy? Would you do that to your child? Would you do that to a newborn? So sometimes we have to say, it's that brain up there, it's locked between your ears, and it needs some support. So we're talking about what the World Health Organization has said to us. When a society is well, these are the components that it has. It has resiliency. Now, a lot of us in healthcare, we don't really want to hear about resiliency because that to us meant pizza and more work. Can you be resilient, please, and just eat this pizza and do more work? And that's not really what we just refer to as the neurophysiology of resiliency. We know now that resiliency is when we find a point of control and we actually build that long-term potentiation, show our brain that we can do it, and next time it's actually easier for us. So now we know that. And now we're talking about building capacity. What just happened? Sorry guys, close your eyes. Don't get dizzy. I don't know why I just jumped to the end. That's okay. This is resiliency. You're getting a peek at Dr. Feldman's talk. Yeah. We actually just. Yeah. I know. Now a teaser. This is just so you stay in the room because you saw a puppy. Yeah, you're prepared. That actually, I had that all planned. But when we talk about capacity building, we're like, oh my gosh, more sticky notes. Like, how are we going to do all this, right? Do we need more rest? Yeah, we all need a bit more rest, right? And that's what's the beautiful thing of this weekend. We can all kind of step away from our usual activities and think about what is important to us and how do we build our creativity? How do we put our brains in places where we can see new options? Well, the beautiful thing is people have researched this. We don't have to figure this out for ourselves. So we know when we put ourselves into positive emotions, and by the way, saying positive and negative emotions is a bias because emotions are emotions. So there's a wonderful speaker by the name of Dr. Susan David. Look up her TED Talk. She's wonderful. She has a book called Emotional Agility. And she tells us, as soon as we say positive and negative emotions, we're biasing those emotions. They're just emotions. And emotions are just guides. And they're telling us what's important to us. If we can get our brain into positive emotions, bias, like joy, like gratitude, like just simply interest. Like simply, I hope that my team can get this project done. I have pride in my team. Those are positive emotions. And we want more of those, and cute little faces, because that will help us see new solutions, see new possibilities. And that's what we want to get our brain towards. And there's also a researcher, Dr. Barb Fredrickson, psychology researcher, positive wellbeing, positive psychology, has done amazing work with military, so many academic centers. And it really comes down to fun stuff, like coming to these kind of meetings and building quality connections. Like I got to catch up with my bestie, Dr. Spencer over there. And cultivate kindness, limit distractions. So what are we blocking out? So my two adult daughters are with me this weekend. So that one told me how she took Instagram off her phone. it's not off her phone really, but it's not on her screen. So it's harder for her to get there. So she's kind of put a block towards that, and she doesn't let herself look at reels, which I'm really proud of because I myself have gotten stuck on reels because I know how brains work and they stick, I get stuck there. Thank goodness the good news also is nature helps us to renew and recharge. And if we learn and apply our own strengths, we all would rather work in our strengths than try to build skills we don't have. So we just have to name them and figure them out. Now, I also was talking about this book with my daughter this morning because she's having trouble. She's getting her PhD and she works in a lab, and there's new people in the lab. So they're building their team, and their team is a little rocky. And this is a wonderful book. Of course, a little bit of bias. Dan Coyle's from Cleveland, Ohio, where I'm from. So he wrote this book, dove into research on teams. How do you build a team that supports each other? Well, it's really amazing, but we can do it in a strategic or a lazy way, where we can put people around us that are a few steps ahead of us in something we want to get towards. Let's say, I don't like to write manuscripts, just we can put that out there. It's not my happy place. If you ask me anything, manuscript writing would be like the lowest on the list. I can think of 100 things I'd rather do, including like clean the bathroom. And I joined a group that was a writing group at our local college, and I was like, and then I heard like people also have trouble writing, and I heard some strategies that they use to write easier, and it was so helpful just to acknowledge that this is hard for some people. It's not their happy place, but they built ways that they got that job done. And then there's the 5 people theory. So you think like, who are the 5 people in your life that you hang out with the most? They supposedly determine our salaries, but they also determine our happiness. And we want to put people around us that are lifelong learners because that will encourage us to be lifelong learners. And when we feel vital, we are learning. So vitality is living and growing. So if we want to feel vital, we want to make sure we have happy people around us that also are helping us grow. Here's this range of emotions, so many emotions, right? Brene Brown talks about emotions. Now, my only beef with Brene Brown, yes, I have a beef with Brene Brown, because of my neuroscience bias. She talks a lot about the heart, whole heart, whole heart. Well, we know emotions come from the brain, okay? I'm going to call her and tell her someday, but I don't have enough. So, when we look at this and we look at this pink, the pink one coming out of the left, you can go from annoyance to anger to rage. Well, I had a meeting one day where one of my boss's boss told me at 52 it was too late for me to build leadership skills. And I thought, really? I don't agree with you. And I said, have you heard of wisdom? Have you met a woman that's raised 4 kids, that's also been a doctor, and does things in the community? I don't agree with you. And I got out of the meeting and I was like, smoke coming out of So thank goodness I've learned that anger happens when there's another emotion first. So I was obviously feeling devalued and so many things, and I knew I felt angry, but there was many emotions first and then anger. But the good news is I've read in a few books, and one of them is called Stay Hungry and Kick Burnout in the Butt. That is written by Steve Berglass. I highly recommend that book. He's a gentleman who's a psychiatrist and a coach. And he reminds us anger gives us energy to change. So if you are feeling that anger, I value now, I know years later, that was helpful because since then I built a business and I built my skills because I thought, well, I'm going to prove them wrong. They're wrong, and I knew they were wrong. But so sometimes people that angry will be can go back and say thank you. Like I saw Madonna do this video. It's like, thank you for all the haters because I've lasted and I found what's important to me and helped me clarify what was important to her. And, so, okay, we've talked about resiliency. We've talked about building that capacity, what that may mean for you. Now how do we even stay prepared to transcend challenges that are known and unknowable? Because we know there are unknowable challenges because we've lived through so many, and we have some new ones lately, and we know others will come, and we can't even know what they are. Do we just pick from just the hat? How do we approach this? Well, good news is, again, there's research on this, and it's actually been out for a long time. So there's a HBR, or Harvard Business Review, writes compendiums and puts the best articles, the ones that have been most impactful for people, to find some strategies. How do we navigate? Well, what they suggested is we think of this like an Olympic athlete. How do they schedule their days or weeks? They don't mess around with their time, right? They have a plan, they usually have a coach, and they have a detailed workout plan. It also includes rest in there, but they have a plan. We don't just hope, that our professional life will remain interesting and exciting, we need to have a plan. And we need to actually build the skills that are called secondary skills. So how do we build our endurance, our strength? They suggest putting rituals into place. And there's 4 levels of rituals. And these are non-negotiables. We've heard this before, non-negotiables. Some people talk about like the glass balls. You know, when you have a vase, you put your glass balls in first, the big ones, because they're most important to me. That would be family, it would be health, my community. And then you put the little things in that are helpful and nice in life, but the glass balls have to go first. These are the glass balls, the rituals. These are we don't mess with these. These are always in our calendar. This is our leader, building our elite leadership standard, our performance level. What happens if we don't do this? We feel tired. We just don't have the capacity to handle these long days. We have lower productivity. We're not feeling that creative. What am I referring to? Well, there's a balance that the Olympic athletes know, that they work out hard and they rest hard. They have leg days, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but they don't work out the legs every day. Like in healthcare, we're pretty much working out all day, every day, without much breaks. But they know breaks are important, and we don't honor that. Even though we know the physiology and the anatomy, and we know the science better than they do, but they have operationalized it. And that's what we need to just learn from other industries, because other industries have actually figured out how to operationalize this a bit better. So again, the lifters, the weightlifters, if they have a leg day, then they have this concept of super compensation, because they know if they work their legs out hard, they've actually ripped the muscle fibers, and the muscle fibers will come back stronger. And so they work them out hard, and then they rest. And what if our teams did that? Oh, you guys, you worked on this project. You know, we got the grant in, we got this clinical trial going, we got this clinical program going. Now we're going to rest a bit. We're going to let our folks go at 5 o'clock, or we're going to give them actual time for lunch. I don't know in healthcare in your world, but we have 6 a.m. meetings, patients or surgery, noon meetings, patients or surgery, night meetings. Where's the super recovery time? So we need to share this concept with our teams, because we can feel revitalized or clear, find those positive emotions if we put this into place. So what if we schedule this week? We look at our schedules and we think, do we actually give ourselves time to have nutrition? How are we figuring out our meal plan throughout the week? How are we making sure that we have 8 hours of sleep? Are we making sure we're moving our bodies, that we're connecting with our friends? I put in my calendar to call my aunt and my uncle, who are 85, because they've lost their partner recently, and I just don't want to forget. So I put it in my calendar, and I put it in my calendar to contact my nephew who has mental health challenges, and I put it in my calendar just to text him once a week or go for a hike with him, because that's important to me, and I don't want to forget, because sometimes I will, and I'm like, I'm tired, I don't want to do it, but it's in my calendar, so we do it. So we want to share this concept of super recovery. So when we put these fitness these rituals into place, we have to build on each other. So we have the physical fitness is what we talked about. Now let's go to cognitive fitness. What happens if we don't acknowledge what our brain needs for cognitive fitness? We won't have the reasoning. We'll feel distracted. Anyone feeling distracted lately with all the things in the news and things? And just like the day is hard, I'm just not feeling like I'm getting my work done very quickly. Well, there's some interesting things we can do. We can look for patterns. So we could have a color day. I've learned about this one. So my favorite color is teal, if you want to know. If you want to get me anything, please make it teal. So I love teal. So sometimes I just have a teal day. So when I'm driving to work, I just look for teal. I found teal mailboxes, teal wreaths. You've looked, so then you see the world a little bit differently. You look for one color a day. And then you have to honor that if you're going to work hard, you need to play hard. If you're going to work hard, you need to rest hard. There has to be a balance to build our capacities, right? And seek novelty. Maybe for your meeting, you have a different pattern. Maybe you have a new room. Maybe you try something new if you have the same meeting for years and years. I've been on one team for 30 years in my life. And, it's nice if we shake up the meeting a little bit, because we've been together a long time. How can we train this week? What can we put into time? Well, we need to recharge our cognitive abilities. So if we want to work hard and get things done, we also need to rest and recharge. And that might be looking at nature. That may be going out in nature. That might be adding a little music, 5 or 10 minutes of your day, if you can get away and just listen to music for a minute. It might be just looking at a picture of somebody that's meaningful to you, your family, your friends, pictures from the AMWA weekend, and just like laughing and smiling that you caught up with people. That will actually recharge your thoughts and your ability to focus. So if we want to be open to novel experiences, we need to put our brain into new places. So we're going to go to the third level now, the emotional fitness. So we did physical well-being, we did cognitive fitness. Now what about emotional fitness? What happens if we don't put any energy toward this or build our capacity? We find we're strained, right? This my daughter was sharing about her team. They don't know each other. They're all working individually. They're not talking to each other. It's just, it's not fun for her. She's avoiding being there because it's just, the atmosphere is tricky. Well, we're all like these bells, right? All our emotions influence each other. And in healthcare, we know 60% of our colleagues are in emotional distress. So when we're in that soup, we're all in the same soup and we're sharing emotions and we resonate with each other. So how can we just take a minute? We can close our eyes. We can do it now. We can close our eyes. If you're going to join me, help yourself. Relax your shoulders a little bit. You can relax your jaw a little bit. Take one deep breath. Take another deep breath. And we can do that before we go into a meeting. We can quiet our voice a little bit before every meeting, even if it's a Zoom, we can do that. And what we're doing is we're physiologically telling our brain, like, things are all right, we're not threatened here. And you'll turn on that green brain, the prefrontal cortex. So we can manage our neurophysiology a little bit. It'll give us a calm focus, a little bit more creativity, and it will engage people around you because we're a little more emotionally, interesting, engaging, attractive, open, right? So if we're not threatening, anyone been at a meeting where someone comes in and slams things down and it was going all right till that person walked in, then everyone's on alert, right? So this is a way that we could just kind of slow down a little bit. And how can we train for emotional fitness? We can do that right before we walk into a meeting. We can take that little minute to recenter ourselves. We can also not forget about our physical rituals, our cognitive rituals, and we can stay close to people that are meaningful to us. We don't need a huge team. We don't need to know everyone, but we need to know who's important to us, because there are relationships that are very emotionally renewing for us. Okay, our last one. How do we hang in there? I mean, it's a long road, right? So I've been in medicine 30 whatever years. How do we feel that belonging? Well, we already did today. We got that check. Why do we do this? Why do we do this? So I treat multiple sclerosis. One story that helps me think of why I do this is I met a patient who, when she was 9, and she was diagnosed with MS when she was 9, and I was caring for her, and now she's a mom, and she's doing great, and she's a computer engineer, and she came from a really tough family background, and she has her own family now, and she sends me videos. It makes me cry thinking about it. She sends me videos of her little person, and it's the best. And I think, who made that happen? For all we have to say about pharma, the pharma products are so much better for MS. They're helping our folks for so much, our tools are so much better. I work in a center, it's very comprehensive, so we never work alone. It's never alone, right? And she's in a community that's helped her. Her grandma's really supportive. So we have to think, what is our focus at work? And why do we do what we do? We have to know what's important to us. And I brought that up with my daughter, who's frustrated and now just avoiding working with her team. It's that probably is because something there is crossing your value. You believe in people, you believe in the unity of people, you know what it's like when a team works together, and you're seeing this new team not work together, and that's why it's so frustrating. So it's okay, it's a skill. Again, it's that endurance skill. So that's how we hang in there. We have to know our why, and there's a wonderful book I passed by, but Simon Sinek's book, Know Your Why. He walks through it, and unfortunately he talks a lot about neuroscience, and he's not a neuroscientist, but he's doing a great job sharing the neuroscientists of our why. So our why is not a verbal thing, it's a feeling. It's a gut feeling. So that comes from deep, the part of the brain, it's not a verbal part of the brain. So we just know when something feels right. Right? We just know. This is why I do this. That one patient interaction, that person you help, we don't feel it all the time. But maybe when you start, how can we train our service fitness? Maybe we think, every time I say I have to think more we. Who made this day possible? Who made this day possible? So I've been involved with AMWA since I was a medical student, but I've come and gone. I haven't been a consistent member, but somebody has kept this going for 100 years. Think of all the people that have done this. I'm so grateful to all of you, and the board members and the students and everybody who made this possible. I mean, it's wonderful. It's so renewing to get to see people and connect with people. So a lot of times we need to just slow down and who made my day possible? Who made my food possible, the room possible? There's so many things, right? And just build that gratitude. So we're all building something beautiful with these 4 levels of fitness. Just think of it. All these skills you're building, you can build something beautiful. And I'll leave you with this quote from Dr. Kubler-Ross, a psychiatrist, who said, we make progress in society only if we stop cursing and complaining about its shortcomings and have the courage to do something about them. And I'm telling you, our society today, we need some courage, and we have courage. AMWA has courage. It's been around for 100 years. So take some time, dream about what's important to you, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
To introduce you, Dr. Feldman.
Thank you, Dr. Wenzel. Excellent presentation. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Kim Feldman. I am a practicing hospitalist for the past 15 years in Dallas, Texas. I also is a local medical director for skilled nursing rehab, and recently a executive physician coach and the founder of Elite Physician Coaching. It is such a pleasure for me to be here and talk to you about hidden potential, because I'm going to share with you a story how I discover my own hidden potential and the pathway to discover hidden potential. How do you recognize it? And a little bit about emotional intelligence, just kind of tie into everything that we talk about, the neuroscience and the emotion connection to it. And the last thing is to show you what executive leadership look like to be happy and successful. So a little bit about me. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I graduated from Emory University in Atlanta in 2000. I double majored in neurobehavioral biology and political science. I was interested in doing an MD-JD program to be both. And I was dating a guy at that time who's now my husband, who entering law school. So I went to sit in one of his classes, and I said, oh no, I'm not going to do well. at UT Law, it was the classes, one exam, and that's going to determine your grade for the whole semester. And I said, I'm not a good test taker. If I go to law school, I may not do so well. So I want to focus on medical school instead. So then I went to Harvard School of Public Health and did some work in public health, and then transitioned over to Tufts Medical School for my medical school education in Boston. Interestingly, during the whole time, I was keeping my relationship with my boyfriend or husband at the time to do a long distance relationship. He proposed the last year of medical school, and I said, man, residency is going to be so hard to have that time together, so we're going to just extend my last year medical school doing some research so that I could be in town with him, plan for the wedding, and start this life. So that's why it took me 5 years to complete medical school. Interestingly, I was so focused on OBGYN. I went through the match in OBGYN. That year it was very competitive, and I did not match into the program I wanted. My own medical school created a spot for me, offered that to me. I turned that down. And that was because I was doing a clerkship in hospital medicine. And the attending at my hospital medicine came to me and said, we were very sad that you were going through OBGYN. We thought internal medicine is better for you. I was so mad that they waited until after the match came out to tell me that. And so I said, wow, I have to make a decision very quickly, and it's going to affect me, my fiance at the time, and he's looking for a job, as a lawyer in Boston, and it was such a mess. We have to make decisions for the next, 3 years or maybe longer, for the rest of my life, to walk away from OB. So he sat down with me and said, what are your values? What do you want in life? And I'm going to show you whether or not you're going to the right path. And after that, he said, you need to go to internal medicine. So my dean and the department chair for OBGYN at that time, he's the president of ACOG, was very upset that I would turn that down. It was a very prestigious program at my medical school. And I said, God, please help me. If it's the right decision, let me proceed with it. So I did. I went to Birmingham for residency, and we spent our first 3 years of marriage in residency in Birmingham. We decided not to have kids because we didn't have any family members to help out, so I waited until we finished, and then we moved to Dallas. And in Dallas, I spent 15 years working in the private practice at Medical City Dallas Hospital. It's an ACA hospital, a very profitable system in Dallas, and it is I feel like very competitive environment, cutthroat. And for women in medicine, it is very challenging because now I have 2 kids. They are both in private school, 2 different schools. One of them go to an all-boys school, and so I'm juggling schedules for both kids, full-time practicing physician, a wife, and now I have a nanny that I have to try to coordinate that, and all the social functions that I have to go to. And let me tell you, the social events that they schedule are never after working hours. 10 a.m. for coffee shop for moms. And if you don't show up to the soccer game, somebody will notice you're not there. So I said, man, 5 years in private practice, it's supposed to be a good life that I thought after residency. It's gonna all just become flourish, and I'm gonna be so happy I get to achieve what I wanted. But it just got really hard. And I said, well, maybe I'm not experienced enough. Maybe I'm too young to realize all this, because some of my partners been there doing this 10 years older, and they seem to be okay. They seem to be happy. They don't complain about it. So I said, well, give it another 5 years. 10 years go by. I still ask the same question. How am I going to find better life balance? How do I have time for myself to work out, to spend more time at home with the kids and the dinner table? So I see myself putting them to sleep at night, and they fall asleep. I'm back in the car, back in the hospital, rounding until midnight. I feel like I'm a PGY 120, like I can never graduate first year, in internship. So that's the year, at 10th year mark, I went to my senior partner, the managing partner, and said, I don't like this life anymore. I want you to offer a buyout for me. I want to walk away from this practice. And he said, why? You're so good at this. The nurses loved you, the surgeons loved you, you have the highest productivity in our group. I want everybody to be like you. I said, but I'm not happy. It's not the life I wanted when I thought about finishing residency. So that's also the year I lost my brother in a car accident. He was 38 years old, sudden death. I got just so upset that how short life really can be to me too. And that's when the pandemic hits. I was losing patients in the hospital. Young patient who shouldn't die died. And there was no mental health support for doctors, and it's just hard to be the frontline healthcare worker and limited resources and lack of really social interaction with colleagues. Burnout came so fast. I didn't even realize I was in the middle of burnout when it's happening. One of the local colleagues of mine committed suicide. Is a pediatric urologist. He's married to a physician, and he had 2 young kids just like mine. The day that he died, he was in the OR operating. So I said, oh no, this could happen to me too. Whatever this is going on, I've got to stop and do something different. So I started to research about how can I manage? How do other people do this? The other doctors of mine, they seem like they have it, but they don't. If you talk to them, they said none of them like it. The way that they have to chase, the productivity, the hospital's pressure, the time that they have to finish their cases, is very hard. So I said, well, the executive, the CEOs who came through this hospital, they all become successful. They move on every 2 years, they get a promotion. And here I am, I don't have a promotion. Actually, I get demoted. I'm doing more work for the same pay. It's ridiculous. So I discovered executive coaching, that all these CEOs have their own professional coach. Just like athletes have coaches, they have their own coaches that work on their strengths, their weaknesses, and how do they thrive. So I went back for school for College of Executive Coaching. I'm learning all these techniques that are helping these executives in the Fortune 500 companies. And I had some of those coaches on my own. And it helped me to see the world in such a different way. It's there the entire time. I never saw it until somebody sitting down with me and helped me to discover those passions again. 7 months ago, my mom died, and that really devastated me. She was healthy, working, and thriving in the business. And one day she got some gait instability and a headache. We sent her to the ER, and I thought it was just a UTI, dehydration, and then everything's fine. And it turns out a brain tumor, metastatic lung cancer to the meninges, and we lost her in 5 weeks. During those 5 weeks, I spent many hours in the hospital with her, day and night, and I got to see what it's like to be a patient, to be the family members of a patient, even though I'm in the medical field. I mean, I grew up, my whole family's in the medical field. My brother's an ER doctor, my brother-in-law is a cardiologist. But it never felt so alone in the medical field that there was nothing I could do for my mom. And then I realized I was such a good doctor to my patient the entire 15 years that I was meant to be there. So my perspective about my work completely changed. I love going to work now. I look forward to each day to come in and make a difference in my patient's life. I want to be there because I want to be their advocacy. I have all the skills and tool set to help them. I need to be that person. And the doors never was open for me to exit because I was never meant to leave that place. I just never saw it. So I'm going to show you a lot of what I'm going to tell you about my story. Really going to go into what has been done in research to find hidden potential. A lot of this work has been done among psychologists, and the one who did a lot of work is Adam Grant, and I'm going to kind of share with you what he found. And if you want to know more details about this, you can buy his book, Hidden Potential, The Science of Achieving Greater Things. What he talks about is building character skills. Strive to make yourself and others smarter. Don't become the smartest person in the room. It does not look good, for you. Don't be afraid to try a new way of doing things. Embrace and expect the discomfort. If you're not growing, then you're not feeling the discomfort. Growing is good. Growing can be difficult, so it's going to take practice. So become a sponge. Absorb as much information as you can. Learn. It's never too late to be a leader. It's never too late to learn. So it's a lifelong practice. If you don't practice, you're not going to get there. Ask for advice. Stay open-minded. Figure out what sources to trust. This means be careful where you get your information from. Get information from people you trust, people you admire. People who you say, "Wow, I want to be like that person when I grow up." You want to be excellent in wherever you do, not to be perfect. I'm a perfectionist, and I'm going to tell you, there's some personality tests out there that I took the Enneagram, and I took it the first time, and it came back to be I'm a perfectionist. I said, no, I'm not. That sounds bad. I don't think that test is right. Let me retake it. I took it 2 more times, and it all came back to be a perfectionist. So I said, okay, I'm going to learn this. Well, okay, how am I going to break this pattern? So I do have some kind of repetitive saying in my head. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. And when I make mistakes, I said, you know what? It's an opportunity for me to grow, to learn. So if I don't accept mistakes, I'm not going to learn. So it's a practice again. Every day I have it on my calendar, things that I'm grateful for, and mistakes are okay. The next thing is being vulnerable. We are taught to not be vulnerable, especially to our patients, no other colleagues. I have to tell you, it is a very competitive world in the research academic setting. And a lot of my colleagues, would tell me, I don't know how to make enough money to keep my practice open. I'm not making money enough this year because I have to pay 50% of my overhead, to my staff. I'm working harder, not smarter, and I'm not liking this. So, it's gonna come from you. Where do you want to put your foot down and say no? And where do you want to put something and say, yes, it's what I want, and I'm gonna go get it. So it takes practice. You want to maintain high standards, but you don't want to eliminate every flaw. Okay, life is messy. Think outside of the box. There's gonna be obstacles that come your way. It's never avoidable, but you want to prepare yourself how to address that when the time comes. And the way we manage stress is we're gonna fall down to the highest level of training. So whatever level of training we get, when we're under stress and we have to make decisions that fast, our brain is going to default to that highest level. We're not going to think straight and look at all the different resources for us. We're going to go right to the one successful event we've had in the past, and we stick to it when we're under stress. So we need to learn to retrain the brain how to raise that level when we go through stressful moments in life. Do not compete against others. Compete against yourself if you're going to get better. Saying, how am I going to get better tomorrow? How am I doing today? How am I going to beat that record for myself tomorrow? You don't know other people's stories. You don't know the struggles they go through. If somebody tells you they are perfect, they got everything figured out, they're lying to you. That is not true. So compete against yourself. Raise your own standards. You can do this. And it's never too late to get up and keep going. Okay, and there's always a community around you to support you if you just look and take a break and pause. Progress takes time. Straight path is not always the best path. The roundabout approach can create more opportunities for growth. Find a compass. There are people who have gone down this road and have been successful. If they make mistakes, they will share it to you. If all you have to do is come find those people. So be bold. All of this is going to tie down to what is success. How do we get to that successful life that we wanted to do? That boils down to emotional intelligence. IQ does not predict success in life. There are enough data to say it's EQ now that's determining success in life. What does EQ mean? EQ talks about the emotional intelligence. It's a distinct combination of emotional and social skills and competencies that influence our overall capacity to cope effectively with the demands and pressures of work and life. Okay, and there are so much data on emotional intelligence that they come up with an assessment, an EQI assessment. That is actually a test that you sit down, you take a question, and it will give you a score on your stress management skills, your self-perception, self-expression, interpersonal skill, and decision-making. It gives you a score. And you want to score higher than average on all these categories, but you also want them to balance itself out. So I had an example of a CEO, a company who scored high on all of these, but she's off balance on every single one of them. And she didn't last long in that position, two years. So how do we develop, the skill set to score high in the EQ assessment? Okay, it requires coaching. Okay, the 5 Fortune 100 companies have found value in the EQI assessment so much that they hire an internal coach for their company to work with each leader in their program, from supervisor all the way to CEO, and coach them, because when they score higher on their score, it's good for the team, it's good for the member. The retention rate is higher, they make more money, the team happiness is higher. It's incredible. So in these companies, it's now mandatory to go to an internal coach that they hire for this purpose. Not only that, for higher up level, as to apply to that company, now they give you an EQI assessment to see how well you score to hire you, okay? Because they want to invest into leaders who will stay and who will develop the company. They don't want somebody who's really smart, have high IQ score to come in and not be able to work with the team. And so the EQ is now a lot more important than IQ. In the EQI assessment, it also have a page to talk about happiness. Are you happy? What's your level of happiness the way you are right now? And that kind of brought me back to a study. We like studies in medicine to kind of support what we already believe. And in this study is done through Harvard Psychiatry Department. Started in 1938, it's longitudinal study where it tracked a bunch of Harvard students and some local young people in the disadvantaged neighborhood in Boston. And every 2 years, they asked them with a questionnaire interview, and they asked them about their life, their career success, their relationship, mental health, physical health, life satisfaction, and they do medical exam, lab work, some cognitive function tests. And then later on in the study, they included their spouse and their children. And What they found is that what makes people happy, wealth is not one of them. Money is not one of them, okay? But it's a good relationship. That's what extends life. That's what makes people happy. Taking care of your health will lead to happier mood, protects against cognitive decline, okay? Bad relationship, social isolation, increased stress, cardiovascular diseases, and accelerate aging. And then the last part that they saw was really good is doing community work, being kind to another person, doing things for others, make people live longer and happier. So in nowhere in there is said title, job title, nowhere in there said how much money you have, or where you live, how many times you go on vacation, how many hours you work. It's all about that relationship. Is who do you cultivate that relationship to make you happy? All of this tie into what's going to make a good leader. What make a good executive leaders. So executive leaders are the one who in the top level executive, and they guide the organization to move forward. And the type of leaders that what they're looking for now is not the dictatorship type. It's the one who is transformational type, the one who inspire others to lead, to move forward, okay? They're not micromanagers. They're not the one who tell you what exactly to do in your job. They're the one who inspire you how to become a better version of yourself. So to have these skill set, they've done study where they have a bunch of CEOs together, and then they ask, what do you think will make a good CEO? What are the characteristic traits that will make a good CEO, a good leader in a team? And these are the things that they boil down to 4 competencies. One is intrapersonal skills. The other one is interpersonal skills, leadership skills, and business skills. A lot of this I tie into emotional intelligence, okay? Not about your knowledge in the field, not about your knowledge in medicine and your specialties, all about the ability to interact with other people. So self-awareness, self-control, emotional maturity, and integrity. The ability to interact with others, have empathy for others. You want somebody who's able to develop relationships. Uh-oh, are you okay? Oh, it's okay.
I'm trying to sneak out.
I know, that's okay.
We need the laughter.
That's right. I know, laughter is a good medicine. That's good. Have a good day. And then, we're at the end of our talk now. And the last 2 things is the ability to influence others, to build, maintain a team, and to be a role model for the team. And the last thing is just executive skill, meaning be able to plan, organize, execute, and use the resources well. So my main take point home here is build your emotional skills. Find somebody to support you and line up with your values, and you will discover those hidden potential in you all along. Thank you.
We do have time for a quick group activity, so we're wondering if you'll play with us a little bit. So there's something called a question burst, and this is maybe something you could take home to your own teams. When you need to come up with some new solutions, you need to get your team to kind of a new level. You're going to start a new clinical program, you're going to start a new research program, and you're wondering, what is something we didn't even think about yet? We just want to get to a whole new level. So if we say, that the challenge today for us is peak performance in the current environment of healthcare. How do we even learn about these things? It sounds like business kind of has already figured this out, but in healthcare, we're just, running around doing our stuff, and we don't even, how do we tap into some of these solutions? So when you do this with your team, you kind of lay out what is the biggest problem, and then what are some questions we can ask? So if we want to do this today, you can just raise your hands, if we're talking about peak performance in our current environment in healthcare, wherever you might be, whatever your situation is, what are some questions we could ask about that? Yes?
How do you measure KPIs? What are the performance indicators that work?
Performance indicators, love it. Yes?
How do we get this implemented on more of an institutional systemic level versus an individual level?
Love it. Okay, by the way, when you do this with your team, I forgot to tell you one rule, and you're all following the rule, is you're not going to preface your question, you're just asking a question. And you do it only for 4 minutes. So you just want people like throw out your questions about the problem. Okay, go ahead, keep going. You're following the rules. Yeah. Yes.
How do I define my sphere of influence?
Oh, love it. How do I define my sphere of influence? I should repeat them for the people at home. Okay, go ahead. Anything other questions about this peak performance? Yes.
How can we find a genius quality in the team, each team?
Ooh, I love that. How do you find the genius quality in the team? In the team members, in each team member? Yes.
How do we help each other see that we are the people who can make a lot of the changes that we want?
Oh my gosh, I'm getting chills. Okay. Amazing. Yes, keep going. Questions, just throw them out there. There's no wrong question.
Why are people leaving?
Why are people leaving? Yeah, okay. Questions? Yes,
What are downstream effects we foresee could be problematic?
love it. Downstream effects that are problematic. And counter to that, upstream effects. What are some upstream effects causing this? There's a great book called Upstream. I like that. Yes.
What are we gonna wish in 5 years that we had done today?
Dang, she's good. She gives me chills. Okay, what are we gonna wish we did in 5 years? What are we gonna wish that we already did today? Yes.
How are we all getting in our own way?
How are we getting in our own way? Yes.
How do we currently communicate that needs to be changed in order to enact this?
How do we currently communicate? Tell me more. Say it again.
Whether that's email or in person or meetings, what is the avenue with which we're communicating to make sure, does that need to be changed? Does that need to be worked on? What can we work on in our communication?
In our communication. Okay, what can we work on in our communication to enhance this, to move this forward?
How do we build a culture of trust?
How do we build a culture of trust? Why don't we have a culture of trust? Yes.
How can we all become more receptive to individual feedback?
How can we all become more receptive to individual feedback? Love it. Okay, so, I did forget one thing. We're supposed to think about your emotions about the problem before you answer these, before the 4 minutes start. And then you think of your emotions. So share some emotions you feel after the questions. We've had some really interesting questions. I've gotten chills. I'm curious. I'm hopeful by your questions. How are you feeling about these questions that you've heard?
More curious.
Curious.
Inspired.
Inspired. Motivated. Depressed.
Impressed.
Oh, phew. I was like, well, okay, if that's what it is, it is. Okay, impressed. Good morning. Okay, so this is called Question Burst, and it comes from a book. I can't remember if I put the book in there. Anyway, you can, yeah. So if your group is stuck, you can always have some stock questions. What is it that we really want? What's really important to us? How are we going to get it? What's preventing us? I mean, we pretty much did this. How will I know when we have it? How will we know when we're there? Where is there? And then you want to kind of document the questions. And then as a team, you would then approach, just choose the question that really gets you all thinking, or because of the questions, what are your next steps? Because in this book, there it is. The book is Questions Are the Answer by Gregerson. That's the book. It's I knew it was a really cool book. But his whole point was it's not the correct answer, it's the correct question that are going to move us forward. And I feel that from this audience. I feel like those questions are, really, they're deep and they're important. They're really needed. All right, well, thank you for your attention. And we want you just to share your success stories with each other. And just, one thing you're proud of, as you're, just share with each other. Because we have to remember, you're doing really difficult work. We talk about, when our moms were in the hospital, both our moms had passed, and what is, the support we got from the people in the room, and that helped us realize what is important. And you're doing amazing work, so keep at it, okay?
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All the best.